Hi there, today we're going to talk about a book called Side Hustles by Chris Guillebeau. I think a lot of people out there wants to be their own boss, want to create their own business or create a stream of passive income. And I'm just like you guys out there, I really like thinking about business idea. I like to look at a business, analyze the business model, how they actually become profitable, how they generate revenue. And I think before we jump straight into this book review, I would like to actually talk about the distinction between what is a startup, a small business, and a side hustle. So a startup is essentially one that a lot of people, when they start their entrepreneurship journey, they look at it and they strive to achieve that because they want to create something that's big, that is can impact or disrupt existing way of working, maybe help in a lot of people's life. And these are the businesses that are really always out in the press. They have got achieved crazy valuations, they have got millions and millions of funding, and they are like the likes of Uber and Airbnb, and people look at them all the time in the news and they aspire to be like create one that's like that. The next category is small businesses, and by small I don't mean it in terms of financials, but rather I mean it's actually playing in a field whereby there are already other existing players in the market. So you are not disrupting the market, you're not creating a new product or new services, but rather you're entering a market which is already tried and tested and proven, right? So by one example would be Gymshark, which provides sports apparel, and they are not creating something new, but they recently raised a lot of money and they are now valued over $1 billion. So it is not creating something new, at the same time you are doing something slightly different, probably in terms of marketing, in terms of reaching out to your audience. And I think there's nothing to be embarrassed about by wanting to create a small business or wanting to create something that's already out there. Let's say you want to create a food business, you want to create go into real estate development, things like that. There's always room for success. There's always opportunity out there for you to grasp if you want to. The last one is a side hustle, and side hustle is essentially a project at the side whereby you do on top of your regular day job, and which generates income for you. And what it is that it could be a form of a small business. It could be driving a Uber, it could be providing some personal services which are recurring in nature. So basically a side hustle could evolve eventually into a small business. I think it's important to know the distinction between each of these categories, because only when you know that, then you know what you're striving for. And I mean, taking me as an example, I've always been dreaming really big stuff, really trying to create the next big thing, but all those ideas sometimes lack either resources, the capital, or my technical skill. And at the same time, I was also pursuing a career which I really enjoyed. So that two element actually clashes, and without understanding what I was trying to achieve, I was actually not able to achieve much. So before we start any businesses, I think it is important to understand what you're striving to achieve, a startup, a small business, or a side hustle, and also what you have and what you are willing to sacrifice. So I think reflecting, taking a step backwards and looking at myself, I know a career to me is very important. What I do, I like what I do, I enjoy what I do very much. And so I'm keen to continue the path going down the route of having, doing my job well, learning more about my job, learning more about the industry I'm in. But also, at the same time, I would like to still keep that entrepreneurship flame going, right? I still want to keep the spirit alive. And so, I think a side hustle, personally, for me, would be the best option. And that's not to say that it cannot eventually evolve into a small business. If it takes off, if it is in the form of a business and it takes off and it expands and scale and grow big enough, there will always be this opportunity that I can choose. You know, there'll be a choice for you to choose what you want to do, to continue with a career or to continue with a business. Hi, welcome to my reading room, and today we are going to talk about Side Hustle by Chris Guillebeau. I mean, this book is structured like basically like an instruction manual. So there's 27 chapters for it, and each chapter actually relates to a day. So what he's trying to do is to say that it is possible, or he wants you to create your side hustle within 27 days. So it starts from creating your idea in chapter 1, so ideation, all the way to completing, making a profit, and then restarting the cycle again. Or if it doesn't work, troubleshooting, and then try to see how you can make your side hustle work again. So personally, I feel that it is even for people who have created businesses before or created side hustles before, it is always worthwhile just having a quick flip through to as a refresher. Or he might have some ideas which I thought were quite interesting. For example, the $10 or £10 Facebook advertising to do a market validation test. So I think it's worth flipping through, and it's not a big book, right? So you can go through it in a couple of days, 2-3 days. As with any other book reflections that I've done, I would like to share with you 3 or actually 4 key points in this book which I have actually personally felt was the key takeaway. The first point, which is really, really important, is to find something that you can do pretty much tomorrow and doesn't require a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of skills that you don't have, that it can generate revenue and profit pretty much the next day or the next week. You know, something that is quite that can be quite actionable immediately, rather than you having to wait for a long time, plan for it, or develop a business idea or learn a skill that takes maybe a couple of months to a couple of years. Because what it means is that you don't have this long gap that you can eventually become your pitfall. Because a lot of business idea doesn't come to fruition because of this lag, and over time you have other priorities in life coming in and you decide to take a step back and it procrastinate on it, and it never happens eventually, right? So I think it's important to do those minimum variable products, lean startup model, do it bootstrapping, whereby you use the lowest amount of resources that you need to bring this concept to the market and then improve along the way. So that is very important, and I think this book actually helps in that sense, because it tells you and keep reminding you about that point. And also, I think reading some other books, I would like to say that find something that is actually excites you. So I mean, not everybody likes to drive 24 hours, so you can't actually be a Uber driver or Deliveroo rider if you don't like to drive or you don't like to cycle, right? So find something that you like to you enjoy doing, because this is something that you're going to do outside your work. So you're already tired from working and you're trying to do something that supplements your income. At the same time, you're trying to create something that you are going to like, something that you are going to eventually look back and say, I've achieved this, and I've enjoyed playing around with this, setting this up and establishing this, right? So I think it's very important to bear that in mind. The second point which I took away from the book, which I thought was very important, is to actually only look at and focus on just one customer. So my ideas were always to try to save the world, save as many people as possible, to reach out to as many customers as possible. But in his book, he mentioned that basically, if we were to focus on one customer and understand the pain point from that customer, to actually understand what the customer needs from your service, how you can best address this pain point, from that one customer, other people with similar needs or similar pain points will then start to get attracted to your solution. So I mean, the example that he gave was a podcast creator who actually wrote a letter specified even the name, the family, and it was imaginary, but then basically he crafted it in such a way that he feels that every time he creates a podcast, he's actually addressing that one particular person, and that brings that whole service to life as well. If you think about it, it feels that you're customizing your service to the listener, to that one particular listener, and everyone who actually listens to it will then feel that, oh yeah, he's actually talking to me. Everyone who have pretty much similar background or part of the scenarios or situation that he was actually targeting of that one customer would feel that he's actually addressing their need directly. So I think that is very important and crucial point which I take away, and any business that I do or create going forward, I will bear that in mind. The third point is done is better than perfect, and I totally agree with it, because I think at the end of the day, you create a goods or service, the purpose is to actually give it to the end customer to use or to enjoy, and if you are just trying to perfect it all the way without getting it to the market, you never get market validation, you never know whether the product is what the customer needs, you never know whether the product is actually working as intended, right? So I feel that it's better to always ship things out and then you can give the customer a form of an indication that this product is not yet perfect. You give them discount, or you can say that it's in beta mode. One example that he shared is Google Mail, Gmail, was actually in beta mode for 5 years before it actually became formalized. And from personal experience, I know Company House in the UK have been in beta mode ever since I started working. So it has been what, for the 8 years or so. So it's never, I think, never an issue to actually launch something that is actually done but not perfect. For $10 or £10 on Facebook pages, you can reach a wide pool of people who are potentially your clients in future. And you'll know within a short period of time, I think 4 days of analytics, to know whether is this idea something that's feasible, does this idea have legs for it to run. The last point that I think is probably more relevant to businesses that are already up and running, it is that we are always falling into the trap whereby we are running businesses, we are busy running businesses, we are replying to all those emails coming in all the time, and we forgot that essentially our role is also to grow the business. So what he says is that dedicate a particular time within the day, say 25 minutes in the morning, whereby your headspace is clear and you can actually focus on what you need to do, create a plan that you need to do to actually grow the business. So you don't lose sight of the eventual goal whereby you want to actually make more money and you want to reach out to more customers. So I think that is very important, because if you think about it, if you apply it to even say our work or my work, we don't spend enough time doing business development. We don't spend enough time going out to the market, attending conferences, networking to bring in more customers. I think that is very, very important for any business to actually thrive. So if you're entrepreneurial, you want to create your business, you want it to sustain and scale up, growing element is just important, or even more important than running the business. So that's it. Those are the 4 points which I personally feel are my key takeaway from this book. If you are someone who's entrepreneurial, you want to create your own business, your side hustle, or even a startup, I strongly encourage you to just pick up this book, have a read. It doesn't hurt anyway. And if there are other points which you feel are quite important, or points that you feel are interesting to share, do put them in the comments below. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to like the video or subscribe to my channel. See you soon.